announcements.
Mr. Speaker, sir, it is with deep regret that we have learned of the demise of 4 former members of Parliament. Mr. Khalid Tegali on 6th of August at the age of 73, Dr. Satyanand Piyatam on 22nd of August at the age of 80, Mr. Premdat Dungu on 21st September at the age of 78, and Mr. Marie-Joseph Jacques Chateau de Ballion on 25th of September at the age of 70. Mr. Speaker, sir, Mr. Khalid Tegali was born on 11th of May 1948 in Cupid. He attended the Champ de l'Eau Primary School in Port Louis and then the Islamic Cultural College. In 1969, he proceeded to London to study law and was called to the bar in 1974. He entered politics in 1983, joining the MMM. He contested the 1983 general election in constituency number 2, Port Louis South and Port Louis Central, under the banner of the MMM. He was elected second member for the said constituency. Mr. Tegali served only 1 mandate. In 1987, he retired from active politics and returned to his practice at the bar. In 1990, he was appointed Senior District Magistrate, in which capacity he served until 1992, when he was transferred to the State Law Office, where he assumed the post of Principal State Counsel. From 1994 to 2004, Mr. Tegali served as chairperson of the Tax Appeal Tribunal. He was appointed chairperson of the Permanent Arbitration Tribunal in 2004. The next year, he retired from service and returned to his practice at the bar with specialization in tax litigation. Mr. Speaker, sir, in 2016, Mr. Tegali was appointed chairperson of the Equal Opportunities Commission, a post which he occupied until his last breath. Mr. Tegali found time, in spite of his busy schedules, to engage in social and religious activities. He was the initiator of the Muslim Family Council, of which he became the first chairperson in 1995. Mr. Speaker, sir, may I request you to kindly direct the clerk to convey the deep condolences of the Assembly to the bereaved family.
Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, sir, it is with regret that I have learned of the passing of the 4 previous members of this House. Therefore, I associate myself with the tribute made by the Honourable Prime Minister to late Mr. Khalid Tegali, and I also request the clerk to convey condolences of the opposition to the bereaved family.
Honourable members, I associate myself with the tribute paid to the memory of late Mr. Khalid Tegali, former Member of Parliament, by the Honourable Prime Minister and the Honourable Leader of the Opposition, and I direct the clerk to convey the deep condolences of the Assembly to the bereaved family.
Mr. Speaker, sir, Dr. Satyanand Piyatam was born on 15th of March 1941 in Grand Gobe. He attended Poudre d'Eau Primary School and subsequently the Darwin College in Flac. In 1959, Dr. Piyatam joined the Teachers Training College in Beaubassin and obtained his teaching license in 1961. After his training, he worked as primary school teacher. In 1965, he proceeded to the Soviet Union to pursue university education. In 1970, he graduated as Master of Arts in History and International Relations from the People's Friendship College of Moscow. In his determination to quench his thirst for more knowledge, he decided to pursue further education in the Soviet Union. In 1973, he was awarded with a PhD and later became a research fellow at the Lenin-Marx Research Library in Moscow. Dr. Piatam returned to Mauritius in 1974 and joined the Bourgeois College to teach history and social sciences. 4 years later, he became the head of the history department. He entered politics in the same year and joined the MMM. He concurrently worked as personal assistant to the Soviet Union ambassador to Mauritius until 1976. He contested the 1976 general election in constituency number 9, Flac and Bonaccueil, under the banner of the MMM, but was not successful. In 1977, he became the editor-in-chief of Le Militant for a period of 1 year. He also contested the 1982 general election in constituency number 15, La Cavergne-Phoenix, under the banner of the MMM-PSM alliance. He was returned second member for the said constituency. In April 1983, he was appointed Minister of Labour and Industrial Relations, a portfolio which he held until August 1983. He left the MMM in 1983 to join the newly created MSM, of which he was one of the founding members. He stood as a candidate for the 1983 general election in constituency number 15, La Cavergne-Phoenix, under the banner of the MSM Labour Party Alliance, but was not returned. In 1984, he was appointed part-time advisor on international relations matters at the Prime Minister's office. He concurrently held the post of Senior Research Fellow at the Mahatma Gandhi Institute. During the same period, he served as chairperson of the Sugar Industry Labour Welfare Fund. From 1987 to 1996, he occupied the post of Ambassador of Mauritius to the United Nations. During this period, he also served as president of the African Ambassadors Group. He was chairperson of the United Nations Population Fund Committee in 1991. Mr. Speaker, sir, Dr. Piatam was a renowned senior historian who has written hundreds of articles and books on Mauritian history and international relations. Mr. Speaker, sir, may I request you to kindly direct the clerk to convey the deep condolences of the Assembly to the bereaved family.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I again associate myself with the tribute made by the Honourable Prime Minister to late Dr. Piatam. May I also request the clerk to convey the condolences of the opposition to the bereaved family.
Honourable members, I associate myself with the tribute paid to the memory of late Dr. Satyanand Piatam, former Member of Parliament, by the Honourable Prime Minister and the Honourable Leader of Opposition, and I direct the clerk to convey the deep condolences of the Assembly to the bereaved family.
Mr. Speaker, sir, Mr. Premdat Dungu was born on 23rd October 1943 in Triolet. He attended the Danishwok Suivez Government School and the New College of Port Louis and the Port Louis High School. He was later awarded a diploma in cooperatives by Dahomey University of Benin. In 1966, Mr. Dungu showed an interest in politics by joining the PMSD. He contested the 1970 by-election in the constituency of Pamplemousses and Triolet, but was unsuccessful. In 1972, he took employment as a Hindi teacher in a primary school. From 1974 to 1976, he held the post of inspector at the Development Works Corporation. In the 1976 general election, which he contested under the banner of the Independence Party in constituency number 11, Vieux-Grand-Port-Rosebel, he was returned as third member. From March 1977 to December 1981, he held the post of Parliamentary Secretary for the Ministry of Power, Fuel and Energy. In 1982, Mr. Dungu ran for the general election in constituency number 6, Grand Bay and Poteau d'Or, under the banner of l'Alliance Nationale, but was not elected. In 1984, he occupied the position of Plant and Transport Coordinator at the Development Works Corporation. He contested the 1987 general election in constituency number 6, Grand Bay and Poteau d'Or, under the banner of Mouvement Travailliste Socialiste, but was once more unsuccessful. In the same year, Mr. Dungu joined the Dresswell Knits textile industry as Chief Executive Officer. Mr. Dungu ran for the 1995 general election in constituency number 6, Grand Bay and Poteau d'Or, under the banner of Mouvement Militant Socialiste Mauricien, but was not returned. Mr. Dungu was once more unsuccessful in the 1998 by-election in constituency number 9, Flac and Bon-Accueil. Mr. Dungu made a last attempt in 2005 general election in constituency number 5, Pamplemousse and Triolet, under the banner of Top Dhamaka Vrai Rouge, but was not returned. Mr. Dungu served as ambassador from February 2007 to August 2011 in Ethiopia, and from January 2012 to January 2015 in Malaysia. Mr. Dungu was also known as a social worker. Mr. Speaker, sir, may I request you to kindly direct the clerk to convey the deep condolences of the Assembly to the bereaved family.
Speaker, sir, I once again associate myself with the tribute made by the Honourable Prime Minister to late Mr. Prem Dungu. May I also request the clerk to convey the condolences of the opposition to the bereaved family.
Honourable members, associate myself with the tribute paid to the memory of late Mr. Premdat Dungu, former Member of Parliament, by the Honourable Prime Minister and Honourable Leader of Opposition, and I direct the clerk to convey the deep condolences of the Assembly to the bereaved family.
Mr. Speaker, sir, Mr. Marie-Joseph Jacques Chateau de Ballion was born on 3rd of April 1951 in Rosehill. After his secondary education, he went on to tertiary education and was awarded a diploma in accounting by the London Chamber of Commerce. He later took employment in the sugar industry, where he had a fulfilling career as accountant. Since his very young age, he had a passion for politics. He chose to join the PMSD. In 1987, he contested the general election in constituency number 19, Stanley and Rosehill, a region where he grew up. However, he was not returned. In 1991, he contested the 1991 general election under the banner of the Labour Party PMSD alliance, but was not elected. At some point in time, he left the PMSD and joined the Labour Party. In 1995, he contested the general election under the banner of the Labour Party and MMM alliance and was elected second member. 1996, Mr. Chateau de Ballion was appointed junior minister at the Ministry of Finance. In July 1997, after the departure of the MMM from the government, he was appointed Minister of Tourism and Leisure, which portfolio he held until September 2000. He did not contest the 2000 general election and took employment at the Circus Advertising as Administrative Director. In 2006, he was appointed Ambassador in France with accreditation to Italy, Portugal, Spain, as well as the Organisation Internationale de la Francophonie and UNESCO, a post which he occupied until 2014. Mr. Speaker, sir, Mr. Jacques Chateau de Ballion wrote a book entitled Le Cœur de Solange, dedicated to his mother, whom he lost when he was only 6 years old, and to his family. Mr. Speaker, sir, may I request you to kindly direct the clerk to convey the deep condolences of the Assembly to the bereaved family.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I associate myself with the tribute made by the Honourable Prime Minister to late Mr. Jacques Chateau de Ballion, with whom I had the occasion to work closely for a number of years. May I request the clerk to convey the condolences of the opposition to the bereaved family.
Honourable members, I associate myself with the tribute paid to the memory of late Mr. Jacques Chateau de Ballion, former Member of Parliament, the Honourable Prime Minister, and the Honourable Leader of Opposition, and I direct the clerk to convey the deep condolences of the Assembly to the bereaved family.
Papers have been laid. Questions?
Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, today's PNQ is addressed to Dr. the Honourable Minister of Health and Wellness, whether in regard to the COVID-19 pandemic in Mauritius, he will state the number of A, PCR tests effected by his ministry on the local population since 1st August 2021 to date, indicating the number thereof found positive. B, fully vaccinated persons having died from COVID-19 and those admitted to public hospitals, indicating which vaccine had been administered to them. And C, COVID-19 positive persons having died and where the cause of death has been attributed to some other comorbidity.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to seize this opportunity to thank the Honourable Leader of the Opposition for giving me yet another occasion to enlighten the House and the whole population in relation to COVID-19 situation. This PNQ will give me the opportunity to provide information on all actions taken by my ministry as well as the government since the closing of borders, partial resumption of economic activities, vaccination, and finally opening of borders as from 1st of October 2021. Mr. Speaker, sir, I also wish to express my sincere condolences to the families of victims of the COVID-19. I wish to put on record the unflinching support and involvement of the Honourable Prime Minister since the onset of the pandemic. In fact, the Honourable Prime Minister has himself been chairing the daily meetings of the High-Level Committee on COVID-19 set up since January 2020 to take stock of the situation worldwide and in Mauritius and take decisions on important measures to be implemented to curb the proliferation of the virus in Mauritius. Mr. Speaker, sir, the House will be glad to know that more than 280 meetings of the High-Level Committee under the chairmanship of the Prime Minister have been held on a nearly daily basis since the beginning of the pandemic. Mr. Speaker, sir, in reply to Part A of the question, the number of PCR tests from 1st October to 24th October 2021 in the community from incoming Mauritian passengers and from private clinics stands at 47,855 and are as follows. Central Health Laboratory, 5,868, Airport Laboratory, 25,212, Nova Lab, 6,327, Welkin 11,819. The number found positive from 1st October to 24th October 2021 in the community stands at 1,738. Mr. Speaker, sir, in the beginning of the pandemic, the strategy was to contain the virus by preventing its spread in the community. Thus, random testing was being done routinely to detect the presence of the virus. Upon detection of any positive case, contact tracing was established, contacts were identified, and kept in quarantine centers. Moreover, targeted testing was also being carried out in regions or localities with several positive cases, where several positive cases were reported. Mr. Speaker, sir, we have reached now a point where vaccination against COVID-19 is only solution. In fact, it is the game changer, thanks to the prompt actions taken to procure vaccines and the population who responded positively to the vaccination campaign. Within a short lapse of time, we have been able to vaccinate a large number of our adult population. Mr. Speaker, sir, the House is aware our original target as per the vaccination and deployment plan was to vaccinate 60% of the adult population by the end of September 2021. We have achieved this target well ahead, and 60% of the adult population had been vaccinated by mid-August 2021. Given the high percentage of vaccination achieved, the country has been able to open its borders in phases, and as from 1st October 2021, the country is open to the world. In fact, on the first day of opening of our borders, the rate of vaccination was 64.2%, more than the targeted 60%. Mr. Speaker, sir, let me now give some clarifications regarding the rapid antigen test. We have already fully vaccinated more than the targeted 60% of our population and have reached 67% of the population fully vaccinated. Several regulations have been promulgated to ensure various sanitary measures to be taken to prevent further spread of the disease. We are no longer in 2020. As everyone is aware, in 2020, the recommendation of WHO was testing, testing, and testing. However, in 2021, the recommendation of the WHO and international community is vaccination. Mr. Speaker, sir, with the successful vaccination campaign, we have moved from the strategy of containment, and we are now focusing on providing treatment and care to symptomatic cases. We have moved from quarantine to isolation. These actions are scientific-based and with the evidence of all our experience we had. Allow me, Mr. Speaker, sir, to inform the House that for the same period, that is from 1st October 2021 to 24th October 2021, my ministry has effected 44,838 rapid antigen tests, out of which 12,000 have been found positive. Mr. Speaker, sir, in line with the WHO recommendations and guidance on diagnostic testing for SARS-CoV-2, I quote, while recommended response activities are the same for probable and confirmed cases, testing of probable cases where resources allow is useful since it can exclude cases and reduce the burden required for isolation and contact tracing, end of quote. Mr. Speaker, sir, the rapid testing has been effected on asymptomatic persons attending the flu clinic and hospital for other treatment and procedures, and positive persons of rapid test have been advised to self-isolate under the monitoring of doctors of the domiciliary monitoring unit. I wish to inform the House that following the phasing out of the quarantine centers, my ministry enlisted the services of 34 medical practitioners of the DMU on a 4-month contract basis to effect domiciliary visit to patients tested positive in isolation. The DMU has started its operation since 2nd September 2021. Mr. Speaker, sir, the transmissibility rate of persons tested positive with rapid antigen test is very low. In fact, 98% of persons tested positive with ARAT are asymptomatic. The question, hence, the question of treatment or recovery of these persons does not arise. Mr. Speaker, sir, with regard to Part B of the question, the number of fully vaccinated persons having died of COVID-19 from October 1st to 24th October 2021 stands at 16. Among those, 15 were fully vaccinated and tested COVID-19 positive and were admitted to public hospitals. 2 were admitted at Victoria Hospital, 1 at the SSRN Hospital, 1 at Bruno Chong Flack Hospital, and 11 at ENT Hospital. No fully vaccinated COVID-19 positive patient was admitted at the Nehru Hospital and Dr. A.G. G2 Hospital. As the House is aware, Mauritius benefited from donations or from procured vaccines such as Sinopharm, Covishield, Covaxin, AstraZeneca, Sputnik V, Johnson & Johnson, and Pfizer-BioNTech. In the interest of time, I am tabling the list of fully vaccinated persons having died from COVID-19 from 1st October to 24th October 2021, and the number of persons fully vaccinated and have been admitted to public hospitals with the specific vaccines administered to them. Mr. Speaker, sir, with regard to Part C of the question, since 1st October 2021, to date, there have been 47 persons who had been tested positive to COVID-19, but whose death is attributed to other comorbidities. In fact, the cause of death of these persons is as follows: cancer patient 3, cardiac patient 17, diabetes 6, hypertension 2, skull fracture 1, renal disease 16, cervical mass 1. Mr. Speaker, sir, I make an earnest appeal to the House to understand and appreciate the paradigm shift this government has made in the management of the COVID-19 pandemic from containment of infection to a successful vaccination program and to a new normal under a constant surveillance system ranging from prevention to treatment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
First, I'd like to ask the Minister, the number of PCR tests he has done averaged about 200 tests per day, 244 tests per day in October. This compares to about 5,000 to 6,000 tests that the ministry was doing in, I'm talking only about local communities because the minister gave lots of other figures. I'm talking about local communities. Local communities, you were doing 5,000 tests at least in July. You've reduced this to 250 only per day. Why is that?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. The reason is clear, Mr. Speaker, sir. I pointed out how the vaccination is the solution for COVID-19. Obviously, we have reached a vaccination target of more than 60-65%. And we have also seen how many PCR tests we have been conducting since, as you rightly pointed out, 5,000, 6,000 tests being done. We have patients, we have, people being quarantined, and all of those tests being done. The majority, should I not say 100% of the tests were negative. Obviously, the government has to focus on vaccination. And vaccination has bring that result. And that we have the results now that vaccination, it has changed everything. From testing to now focusing on those who are not tested to focusing on those who are symptomatic. This is the paradigm shift. This is what I want to explain to the whole population. And I have been explaining it on a weekly basis on the press briefing of the National Communications Center.
The Minister has given us a figure of 1,738 positive cases out of the PCR test. Why is this figure not published?
PCR test of 7. Yes, this PCR test is being published. All PCR tests, Mr. Speaker, sir, are being published. This is being, we always publish the PCR test, the confirmed PCR test. They are all the tests that is being published.
There are hundreds of discrepancies between what has been published by the Ministry for October and the figure that he has just given to this House. Is he aware of that? It is easily calculated. There are hundreds of people who do not show up from one list to the other. Yet, it is produced every day by your ministry.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I'll take first part of the question is that all PCR positive tests, be it from the private lab, Welkin, Nova Lab, be it from the airport being tested positive, be it from the conduits from the Central Health Laboratory, they are all being communicated by the proper communicating channel. I invite the Honorable Leader of Opposition to give me the figures and then we will compare.
He publishes this every day, and this figure shows, for instance, Saturday 23rd, 74 people. This figure, as what he's saying, includes everyone. The labs, the airport, everyone. Yet, the figure that you've given for only local community is far higher than the figure that you have given for October. I won't fight with the figures. You check it, and you come back later. Please, because this is not right. You must tell everything to the House. Mr. Speaker, now let me come to rapid antigen tests. 12,000 people in Mauritius have been tested positive by rapid antigen test since October. Now we know that 99% accuracy of rapid antigen tests. Why is a 12,000 figure not published anywhere by the ministry and not included in this 1.32% of population infected that is again published by your ministry every day? Why do you exclude the 12,000 positive persons tested by rapid antigen tests?
Mr. Speaker, I'll again come back with the data has been published. The information is that Be Safe Mauritius includes PCR test, not antigen test, and not Welkin and private and airport lab. The Ministry of Health have his publication in the government information system. This there where you get the right figures. This is the first part of the question. Now, about the rapid antigen test. I explained it clearly. The rapid antigen tests, they are all 98% are asymptomatic cases. We have to focus. We have to focus on symptomatic cases. This has been not only for Mauritius. This has been the practice of many other countries. Even in the future, we will reach you will reach a point where we will not even publish the vaccination, the number of people being vaccinated. We're not going to publish the number of cases detected, but we will keep on publishing the data for the death. We have to make that shift. And we know very well, rapid antigen tests being tested positive, they are asymptomatic persons, they don't require any treatment, they've been staying at home, and they have no intervention. Mr. Speaker, sir, this is a reality of being tested positive. Should we ask the question, why we are having rapid antigen test positive and without symptoms? The answer is vaccination. Vaccination has allowed us to reach at this point. And this is what every country is willing to achieve. Every country is willing to achieve vaccination so that to protect the population. This is the final result. The final result, whether a country is not, Mr. Speaker, sir, let me complete. I'll complete it in 30 seconds. This is the answer for rapid antigen test. Now, if this country would not have vaccinated the population, if this country wouldn't have put all the measures of precaution, sanitary measures of precautions, all the rapid antigen tests, there would have been many rapid antigen tests turn out to be positive on PCR tests and being symptomatic. The situation would be completely different. This is the paradigm shift, and this is the way forward.
Speaker, I'd like the Minister to be gracious. You are sitting after 3 months, the population is dying to have some information. Please try to be succinct in your replies. I maintain the figure, Mr. Speaker, said that this figure includes all the tests and not just the local tests. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, if that is the case, that you don't believe in showing how many people have been infected, why does this bottom here mislead the population by saying pourcentage de la population infectée 1.32%? That when we know that for the only month of October, you have excluded 12,000 people from that. Because it says pourcentage de la population infectée, pas pourcentage de la population symptomatique. You see what I mean, Mr. Minister? So you're misleading. Your ministry is misleading the House with this figure. Change it, because we don't believe it. It is inaccurate from what you have said yourself, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is my question. This is a fact. This is my question. I've asked you the question. Can you ask this guy to stop interrupting? Stupid is parliamentary, I believe. It was used last time. The Prime Minister used it last time. You will remember.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition, I've been patient with you.
Okay.
After I reply, you make a statement.
But
I
I
announced
must...
it on 2 occasions, and you come with your question, and still you want to...
What do you want me to... I
go
am
with
being
your
interrupted. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask the Honourable Minister. My question is very clear. It asks how many people died, how many people were admitted to hospital, whilst being fully vaccinated. Now, this is not the reply that you have given, Mr. Minister. Honourable Minister, you have only given the figure of the people who died. That is not the question that I asked.
Mr. Speaker, sir, the Leader of Opposition, again, is only coming to put questions on figures. I will again reiterate my answers. They are based on facts. They are based on scientific evidence. And what he calls infected, that's what we are, in fact, reporting. Patients who are not infected, I will just give you an example. Someone tested rapid antigen positive and being called to self-isolate. We do the testing around because the family members, they all have to stay at home because one family member is tested positive. And in nearly all the cases, the infectability, that is the transmissibility from someone who is tested with rapid antigen positive to the other members of the family or to the place of work is negligible. And we have to stand. We have to admit, I believe that he will understand that we have to admit, how do we reach this? It is the vaccination. Because now, nearly 90% of adult population is vaccinated. Vaccination, what has it? It has, everyone now is protected, have immunity, and obviously that doesn't give the real picture. Mr. Speaker, sir, my question to the House is, should we only have the number of cases reported, or it is very important to give the number of cases admitted, the number of cases being symptomatic, the number of cases being in ICU, and the number of cases being, the number of deaths reported. The Minister of Health believes that these are the important figures, and we should not dilute these important figures. We are going in the right direction and giving the important figures, and not just diluting it in the figures.
Remind the Honourable Minister that today itself, yesterday also, people who went to the rapid antigen test came home or sent home and died. So that is also important to tell us how many positives there are in the rapid antigen test. And you just have to refer to the families of people who have died in the last few days at home. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask the Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, should I be given the opportunity to reply on this question? No, Mr. Speaker, sir, I have the right to answer to this. If the Leader of the Opposition have the name of the patient who has gone to a testing center, sent back home, this is clearly a medical negligence. And I invite him, invite him to come with a complaint to the Minister of Health. you have to come with a complaint because this is a medical negligence. I agree with you. I totally agree with you. If someone has reached a COVID testing center and sent back home and passed away at home, I'm inviting him to give that in writing, and I will definitely conduct, I will instruct my ministry to conduct whatever be the procedures for a case of alleged medical negligence.
There is medical negligence, and that it should be reported to you. That's a good sign. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask the Honourable Minister, this is again shows up here in terms of people dying, having been vaccinated. Sinopharm is top of the list. It's not so surprising because many Mauritians have had Sinopharm. But I would expect the rest of the figures from the Honourable Minister in due course, according to my question. Now, I'd like to ask the Honourable Minister whether he is aware of studies done by Columbia University, many studies, that have shown that Sinopharm as a vaccine is far less effective, sometimes 3 or 4 times less effective than AstraZeneca. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I'd like him to say whether he's aware of that and why now the third dose that is being offered to Sinopharm vaccinated persons is again Sinopharm, and whether it shouldn't do as many other countries, provide another vaccine to Sinopharm vaccinated persons.
Mr. Speaker, sir, the decision to do a third dose is obviously the decision that the vaccination campaign has to be ongoing, because vaccines, I'm not going to point out which vaccine does what, but at the same time, I'm going to point out that every vaccine has a life cycle. A vaccine will produce an immunity, and that immunity, with time is going to fade away. Now, this is the job of the vaccination committee to decide, because they are experts. They are experts who are going to guide the ministry on the way forward on the vaccination. The leader of opposition knows very well how it is so difficult to get the vaccines. And we have to be thankful to China, to the Republic of China, who at this testing point of time, we have been allowed to procure the vaccines, to get the vaccines and in donations. The report that you are saying about any studies, that any studies will come on time, and we can't rely on one study, on Columbia University's study. That has to be, let's look for the different studies will come up. And now this study have been done with one group of population. We don't know what are the details, how many vaccines have been done. Let time tell us whether which vaccination we have to along with time, we have to go for another vaccination. But now, Mr. Speaker, sir, it's very wrong to criticize a country and one vaccination, and that a country that has provided us a vaccine at this point of time, and now we are going to tell that this vaccination is not good. That is, I think that, Mr. Speaker, sir, that has to be kept on record. This vaccination, we have to be thankful that vaccination has protected our population. In fact, majority of the population have been vaccinated with the vaccine, and we still, with the vaccination committee, we know that we have to do a booster dose with the vaccination that will provide additional and will provide a booster immunity.
What the Honourable Minister is saying, that beggars cannot be choosers. I am tabling the report, the study from the Columbia University. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to come to ENT Hospital, where there have been many, many deaths. Half of these are not reported. What I want to ask the Honourable Minister, whether he is aware that despite the hundreds of tens of deaths at least every month at ENT, there is no mortuary, and bodies are left in the corridor without any dignity, and one body of a Rodrigan was even left 4 days in a plastic bag in the corridor of ENT Hospital. Well, I asked the Honourable Minister whether he cannot organize rapidly for a mortuary to be set up at ENT Hospital.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I'll take this word again. Beggars are not choosers. I believe Mauritius has been putting all the efforts to get the vaccination, like so many countries been doing so, and we were fortunate that due to our bilateral diplomatic relationship with countries, we have been able to secure vaccines, and that's what the message of the leader of the opposition for us, for our people to get vaccinated is beggars are not choosers. Now, I will come back to that ENT. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'll just briefly, because I know the leader of the opposition will come up to ENT. ENT has been dedicated as a facility for patients in a critical care since March 2021 till 1st September 2021, and the number of patients admitted and discharged from
Order.
ENT.
Order. Order, please.
Mr.
Order.
Speaker, sir,
Please continue.
I am replying to questions addressed to me on ENT and the facilities and the success at ENT. Let me give that answer, and then if the leader of opposition is not agreeable, I will give more clear, yes. Now, the patient discharged from ENT hospital being cured from March 2021 to 1st September is 97.6%. Now, since September 2021, I have to inform the population that only patients requiring 6 to 8 liters of oxygen per minute and who is in spite of this oxygen flow do not have satisfactory concentration of oxygen in their blood are admitted to ENT. And in spite of their critical situation, the recovery rate at ENT is 60.3% as compared to 64% in Europe and 42% in Saudi Arabia. And over here, I wish to again send my gratitude, send my congratulations to the staff of the ENT for the good work they are doing. Now concerning the mortuary, Mr. Speaker, sir, COVID-19 is not something that we have learned. We have a lot of experience and that we know everything out of it. I agree with the leader of opposition. At times it happens that there are lateness, there are delays in managing death or any other, that situation that may arise with dealing with COVID-19 death. But the ministry has kept on improving, kept on improving the facilities made available. And I believe that since the last one or a little bit more, we don't have any issues on the mortuary service at ENT Hospital.
I'd like to ask Mr. It's a very important question. The fact that he didn't pre-order for the vaccines is why we have today to deal with Sinopharm, etc. I'd like to ask this question concerning, this is a very important question, maybe the most important, Mr. Speaker. A drug called tocilizumab. Tocilizumab was approved by WHO on the 5th of July. It is only a few days ago, mid-October, that the ministry has issued an international tender to buy this tocilizumab, which is obviously very effective against COVID. So why the 4 months delay in providing Mauritians with this much-needed medicine? And why, Mr. Speaker, molnupiravir, which is about to be approved and extremely effective against COVID, why molnupiravir has not been pre-ordered, just like the vaccines, has not yet been pre-ordered by the Ministry of Health to save hundreds of lives in Mauritius.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I did not know the leader of opposition is also a great, have a lot of, is a professor in treating medical cases. But thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir. I'll invite him that he form part of the medical team at ENT. Now, first I'll come back to the pre-order. I think that repeatedly we have been answering questions of pre-order. I'm not going to lose the Assembly's time over here. Now, the second part of the question is on that medication, what he has just mentioned. There is the second PQ is coming on that medication. I will be replying it, unless you want me to reply it now. Yes, This is APQ on remdesivir and that. Now, unless you give me, Mr. Speaker, sir, I'll reply. Yes, doctor.
Let the minister find his way.
Mr. Speaker, sir, so I'll give you the answer for that question also. I was expecting that this question, I can reply it on the second question because it will come, obviously, but now your request, I will reply to it now. Now, Mr. Speaker, sir, yes, I'll give you in September 2021, the clinical biological group has recommended the procurement of tocilizumab injections and eventually remdesivir for the patient. The inclusion of this medication is by the clinical biological group. We stand by the recommendation of those doctors who are working at ENT, who are doing their, they do the recommendation. It's not the ministry. It's not the minister, obviously. It's not the leader of the opposition, obviously. We stand guided by the doctors. It's not the doctors who have been treating COVID cases since last year, and their recommendation. They have, if the ministry, when they do the recommendation and the ministry doesn't make available those medication, I will be the first one. You give me that blame, I will take that blame. But if that clinical biological group is recommending in September, and the ministry is doing all the procedures to acquire this medication, which has already been given to patients, this we have to stand guided by that group of experts, group of doctors.
Time over by 4 minutes. Prime Minister.
B903.
Step up.
No conversation. On both sides. Both sides.
I was just informing him. Okay, Mr. Speaker, sir, the House will be aware that on Monday, 25th February 2019, pursuant to a request from the United Nations General Assembly, the International Court of Justice gave an advisory opinion on the legal consequences of the separation of the Chagos Archipelago from Mauritius in 1965. In its advisory opinion, the International Court of Justice made it clear that the Chagos Archipelago is and has always been an integral part of the territory of Mauritius. In view of the illegal excision of the Chagos Archipelago from Mauritius in 1965, the court concluded that the decolonization process of Mauritius was not lawfully completed upon its accession to independence in 1968. The court accordingly determined that the United Kingdom is under an obligation to bring to an end its administration of the Chagos Archipelago as rapidly as possible, and that all member states are under an obligation to cooperate with the United Nations in order to complete the decolonization of Mauritius. On Wednesday, 22nd of May 2019, the United Nations General Assembly adopted by an overwhelming majority of 116 votes to 6, Resolution 73/295, in which it fully endorsed the findings of the International Court of Justice. In that resolution, the General Assembly reaffirmed that the Chagos Archipelago forms an integral part of the territory of Mauritius and demanded the United Kingdom to withdraw its colonial administration from the Chagos Archipelago unconditionally within a period of no more than 6 months, that is by Friday, 22nd of November 2019. The United Kingdom failed to meet that deadline. In Resolution 73/295, the General Assembly also called upon the United Nations and all its specialized agencies, as well as all other international, regional, and intergovernmental organizations, to recognize that the Chagos Archipelago forms an integral part of the territory of Mauritius, to support the decolonization of Mauritius as rapidly as possible, and to refrain from impeding that process by recognizing or giving effect to any measure taken by or on behalf of the so-called British Indian Ocean Territory. Mr. Speaker, sir, more recently, on Thursday, 28th of January 2021, the Special Chamber of the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea gave a judgment in the case brought by Mauritius against Maldives for the delimitation of the maritime boundary between the two states in the Chagos Archipelago region. In its judgment, the Special Chamber overruled all the preliminary objections raised by Maldives to its jurisdiction. In so doing, it confirmed the undisputed sovereignty of Mauritius over the Chagos Archipelago. The Special Chamber further held as follows: A, the determinations made by the International Court of Justice in its advisory opinion of Monday, 25th February 2019, have legal effect and clear implications for the legal status of the Chagos Archipelago. B, the United Kingdom's continued claim to sovereignty over the Chagos Archipelago is contrary to the determinations made by the International Court of Justice that the detachment of the Chagos Archipelago by the United Kingdom from Mauritius was unlawful, and that the United Kingdom's continued administration of the Chagos Archipelago constitutes an unlawful act of a continuing character. C, the fact that the time limit of Friday, 22nd November 2019, set by the UN General Assembly for the withdrawal of the United Kingdom's administration from the Chagos Archipelago has passed without the United Kingdom complying with that demand, further strengthens the Special Chamber's finding that the United Kingdom's claim to sovereignty over the Chagos Archipelago is contrary to the authoritative determinations made in the advisory opinion of the International Court of Justice. D, while the process of decolonization of Mauritius has yet to be completed, the sovereignty of Mauritius over the Chagos Archipelago can be inferred from the determinations of the International Court of Justice. E, the continued claim of the United Kingdom to sovereignty over the Chagos Archipelago cannot be considered anything more than a mere assertion, and such assertion does not prove the existence of a dispute. And F, Mauritius is to be regarded as the coastal state in respect of the Chagos Archipelago. Mr. Speaker, sir, the United Nations and some of its specialized agencies have taken measures with a view to implementing United Nations General Assembly Resolution 73/295. With regard to the United Nations itself, it made a formal change in February 2020 to its official map to clearly show the Chagos Archipelago as part of the territory of Mauritius. The Food and Agriculture Organization which is a specialized agency of the United Nations, has taken steps to implement the General Assembly resolution by updating its maps as well as its databases and relevant country files. It has also rejected an instrument from the United Kingdom for accession to the Indian Ocean Tuna Commission, a regional organization falling under its purview, as it was premised on the so-called British Indian Ocean Territory. On Tuesday, 24th of August 2021, the Universal Postal Union, which is another specialized agency of the United Nations, adopted by a majority of 77 votes to 6, with 41 abstentions, a resolution to implement United Nations General Assembly Resolution 73/295. The resolution provides that A, the Universal Postal Union formally acknowledges that for the purposes of its activities, the Chagos Archipelago forms an integral part of the territory of Mauritius. B, the International Bureau of the Universal Postal Union should request Mauritius to keep the Universal Postal Union regularly informed of any decisions regarding international postal operations in the Chagos Archipelago, including any authorizations to maintain the operation of international mail processing centers by foreign entities in the Chagos Archipelago. C, the International Bureau of the Universal Postal Union should cease the registration, distribution, and forwarding of any and all postage stamps issued by the so-called British Indian Ocean Territory. D, the International Bureau of the Universal Postal Union should ensure that Universal Postal Union documentation does not include any references to the so-called British Indian Ocean Territory or to the Chagos Archipelago as part of the member country of the Universal Postal Union, known as the Overseas Territories of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. And E, the International Bureau should take any other measures deemed necessary to ensure, following representations made by Mauritius to the European Commission about the reference to the so-called British Indian Ocean Territory in the Trade and Cooperation Agreement with the United Kingdom and the European Union signed in December 2020 following Brexit. The European Union has adopted a declaration to the effect that it will interpret and implement that reference in full respect of applicable international law. Mr. Speaker, sir, with all these developments, it is crystal clear that there is a growing recognition that, as a matter of international law, Mauritius is the only state lawfully entitled to exercise sovereignty and sovereign rights over the Chagos Archipelago and its maritime zones, and that the United Kingdom's continued claim of sovereignty over the Chagos Archipelago is a mere assertion. The so-called British Indian Ocean Territory, which the United Kingdom purported to create by illegally excising the Chagos Archipelago from the territory of Mauritius prior to its accession to independence, is an illegal entity. The government of Mauritius is deeply disappointed and concerned that the United Kingdom continues to adopt a stand which disregards the advisory opinion of the International Court of Justice, the UN General Assembly Resolution 73/295, and the judgment of the Special Chamber of the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea. The United Kingdom's position is in stark contrast with its avowed commitment to the rule of law and its claim that it is a long-standing supporter of international courts and a staunch defender of human rights institutions and norms. Mr. Speaker, sir, Mauritius has conveyed on various occasions, publicly, as well as to the United Kingdom and the United States, that it has no objection to the continued use of Diego Garcia as a defense facility. In this regard, Mauritius stands ready to enter into a long-term arrangement with the United States or with the United States and the United Kingdom in respect of Diego Garcia. In view of these assurances, the security concerns expressed by the United Kingdom and the United States cannot justify the continued illegal occupation of the Chagos Archipelago by the United Kingdom. I would like to once again urge the United Kingdom to bring itself into compliance with international law and terminate forthwith its unlawful colonial administration of the Chagos Archipelago. Mr. Speaker, sir, pursuant to the government program 2020-2024, government will continue to pursue all avenues, whether at the political, legal, or diplomatic level, for the completion of our decolonization process so that Mauritius can effectively and fully exercise its sovereignty over the entirety of its territory, including the Chagos Archipelago. And the Mauritian citizens of Chagosian origin can fulfill their legitimate aspiration to return to the Chagos Archipelago. In this context, government will take further action to ensure the implementation of UN General Assembly Resolution 73/295 by other international and regional organizations. I take this opportunity to reiterate our deep appreciation to all countries which continue to support the long-standing struggle of Mauritius to complete its decolonization process. I also express our appreciation to our external lawyers and the team of officials who continue to be vigilant on this issue.
Honourable members, the Chair is advised that PQ 908, B908, B910, B914, 915, 916 have been withdrawn. Honourable Tu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Can the Honourable Prime Minister reveal which 6 members of the Universal Postal Union voted against the resolution which was adopted by the organization last August?
Well, Mr. Speaker, sir, out of the 124 members of the Universal Postal Union which participated in the vote on the resolution relating to the implementation of the United Nations General Assembly Resolution 73/295, 6 voted against. Now, these 6 members include 5 of the United Nations member states which had voted against the United Nations General Assembly Resolution 73/295, namely Australia, Hungary, Israel, the United Kingdom, and the United States. Now, the other vote that was cast against the resolution was from the UK overseas territories, which are collectively a member of the Universal Postal Union. I think it is also worth noting that initially Maldives had voted against the resolution at the United Nations General Assembly, and in this instance, Maldives did not participate in the vote on the resolution of the Universal Postal Union.
Can the Honourable Prime Minister advise what action has Mauritius taken at the level of the Indian Ocean Tuna Commission with regard to the implementation of UN General Assembly Resolution 73/295?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir, I think it is worth pointing that, again, as a follow-up to the resolution of the United Nations General Assembly, in fact, asking all the agencies of the UN, including all the other international organizations, to implement the resolution. So we have tabled a motion before the Indian Ocean Tuna Commission. I won't go into the details of what has happened. I can only say that because of the COVID situation, the meetings have not been able to be held as used to be, that is physically, and therefore the matter has been put on the agenda and has been postponed, so that I think it is more appropriate when we are able to meet physically, so that we will be able to explain our stand to all the member states, and of course there and then be able then to see that we are able to have a majority of members on our side to vote on this issue.
The table has been advised that PQB 907 has been withdrawn.
Thank you. There is a new president and a new Secretary of State in the United States of America, and even more recently, a new Foreign Secretary in the UK. Can I ask the Honourable Prime Minister whether we have managed to establish contacts with the President and Secretary of State of the United States and the new Foreign Secretary of the UK?
Well, Mr. Speaker, it depends what the honourable member means by established contact. Now, I can just say what Mauritius, what I have done. Of course, as soon as the new president has been, the President Biden has been elected, I sent him a letter of congratulations. And of course, in that letter, I also mentioned about the issue of the Chagos Archipelago. And then, of course, when he was sworn in as president, I again congratulated him, and I also raised the issue of the Chagos Archipelago. But we have, these are the only communications that I've been able to send to the actual president of the United States. There has been no verbal contact. We hope we are asking. We have asked for both the US and the UK, more so the UK, because as we know, the stand of the US has always been that this is a matter between you, Mauritius, and the UK, and that you have to deal with the UK, and that the US has been systematically saying that they recognize the BIOT, that sovereignty is with the UK, and so on and so forth. So I have also written to the Prime Minister of UK, and now that I will be attending the summit in Glasgow, I have also requested for a meeting with the Prime Minister. So, well, let's see whether they will respond to our request.
Honourable Ayad.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Can the Honourable Prime Minister enlighten the House as to the rejection of the UK's instrument of accession to the Indian Ocean Tuna Commission by the Food and Agriculture Organization.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir. In fact, when the UK exited from the European Union, so they had to, of course, they had to come up with a new agreement. But they had submitted also in 2020 a new instrument of accession to the Indian Ocean Tuna Commission, because initially they were represented by the European Union. So since the instrument of accession, the UK claimed membership of the IOTC as a coastal state. That is because what they have been saying is because of the British Indian Ocean Territory. And as I say, because of the resolution that was adopted by the General Assembly, the FAO had rejected that instrument of accession. So now they have submitted another instrument of accession to the FAO so that they could join the IOTC as a distant water fishing nation. So, well, that is the situation right now.
Can I ask, concerning the Indian Ocean Tuna Commission, can I ask for confirmation that, in fact, the UK used to apply for membership as a coastal state, which it can no longer do, but as the Honourable Prime Minister said, they are now applying as a fishing nation, because is the Prime Minister aware that the rules of the Indian Ocean Commission allow countries who are not a coastal state, who are not in the Indian Ocean, but who have one or more ships fishing in the Indian Ocean, the rules of the Indian Ocean Tuna Commission allows such a country, therefore the UK, to apply for membership. And what are we doing about that?
Yes, I am very well aware about that. These are the rules of the Indian Ocean Tuna Commission. What we are objecting is that the UK cannot justify its admission based on the fact that the British Indian Ocean territory is part of the territory of the UK. This now cannot stand because of the advisory opinion, because of the General Assembly resolution, and I think more so because of this judgment of the Tribunal of the Law of the Sea. So that we are strongly objecting. But of course we will see how the UK will apply for the membership. We will have to look at the rules and what are the criteria that has been laid down for them to be able to accede to membership.
You still want the question?
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Le Premier ministre a en plusieurs occasions annoncé une visite sur l'archipel, y compris Diego Garcia, avec les Chagossiens et d'autres dignitaires au plan national et international. Pourrait-on savoir de quoi il en est sur le projet? Est-ce qu'un navire a déjà été affrété à ce sujet, à cet effet? Merci.
Let me say, and I try to be as brief as I can, Mr. Speaker, sir. Since the announcement of this visit, I say it as I think it should be said. We have been threatened. Let me put it that way. We have been threatened by the United Kingdom and the United States not to undertake any visit to any of the islands of the Chagos Archipelago. I have stated publicly that on one occasion, the former US ambassador met me specially on this issue and said in very clear terms that should you wish to have a boat to go there, your boat will be sank before it ever reaches any of the island of the Chagos. But then, of course, I think if the House will remember, the US ambassador tried to clarify, to say that, well, it was misunderstood. I don't misunderstand such things, Mr. Speaker, sir. But anyway, this is the situation. But anyway, I can say that I am determined. Mauritius, we are determined. Anyway, on this side of the House, we are determined to continue the fight so that we regain our territory. And I must say it is not easy also we don't have a ship of our own to be able to go to any of the island of the Chagos archipelago. We need to charter a ship, and because of COVID and so on, so it has been very difficult. But we are trying our best, and I hope this will happen at some time in the future.
The table is advised that PQB 904 has been withdrawn. Time 1 minute. So let me call it time is over. Question, you've already withdrawn your question. Yes, 30 minutes gone. Question to other ministers. The table has been advised that PQB 952 will be replied by the Honourable Minister of Land Transport and Light Rail, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Regional Integration and International Trade. PQB 957 will be replied by the Honourable Minister of Arts and Culture, Cultural Heritage. PQB 938, 939, 940, 955, 958, 977, 979, 959, 960, 961, 962, 963, 964, and B992 have been withdrawn. Honourable 2.
B918.
Mr. Speaker, sir, with regard to Brexit, Mauritius signed an economic partnership agreement with the UK in the Eastern and Southern African configuration on 31st of January 2019 to prevent trade disruption and to ensure the continuity of trade. This agreement is operational as from the 1st of January this year. We have included a rendezvous clause in the EPA for future engagement on issues not covered as of now, such as trade in services, investment, intellectual property rights, among others. We will agree jointly with the ESA group and the UK on the appropriate time to start negotiations on these issues. Now that the UK is not a member of the European Union, Mauritius and UK can, if there is mutual interest, engage in negotiations on issues that were under the competence of the European Commission, such as on fisheries, for example. However, there is no obligation to do so because of Brexit.
With regard to the international driving license for citizens of Mauritius to be able to drive in the UK, can the Honourable Minister advise where matters stand?
I understand, Mr. Speaker, sir, firstly, that it is the Commissioner of Police who is the competent authority to issue and for the delivery by him of international certificates of motor vehicles and driving permits. With regard to the question asked by the Honourable Member, I am given to understand that international licenses are still valid for the UK, same as they were valid for European countries with whom we have made the necessary arrangement.
Next question.
B919.
Please.
before we come to driving in the UK, let's go to the more important issue of visa and immigration process. Have we assessed the impact of Brexit of Mauritian in general traveling to the UK, and more specifically, Mauritian students studying in UK universities and who will study in UK universities in terms of visa and immigration process?
May I request the honourable member, Mr. Speaker, sir, if he can come with a substantive question, I could give him the answer.
Honourable Teo.
B919.
Mr. Speaker, sir, with regard to part A of the question, I'm informed by the Mauritius Judo Federation that its managing committee is composed of 11 members from 16 affiliated clubs at the time of election, which was held on 26 January 2019. Subsequently, a total of 28 managing committee meetings have been held. I am tabling the composition of the present managing committee and the status of its office bearers. I'm also informed by the Federation that its annual General Assembly, initially scheduled for March 2020, could not be held due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and that a fresh date will be fixed shortly. Mr. Speaker, sir, as regards to part B of the question, I'm informed by the Mauritius Judo Federation that as at date, only 14 clubs forming part of 5 regional sports committees are affiliated. I am tabling a list thereof. According to the Mauritius Judo Federation, there is no club on its waiting list for affiliation. Request for affiliation has to be made according to the affiliation form provided by the Federation. As regards part C of the question, I'm informed by the Federation that the number of licenses for 2021 is 321. Thank you.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Selon le Sports Act 2016, section 4, sous-section 3, les fédérations sportives ont l'obligation d'affilier les clubs. Et selon mes informations, il y aurait 18 clubs de judo qui se sont vus refuser leur affiliation par la Fédération mauricienne de judo. L'honorable ministre pourrait-il s'enquérir pourquoi la FMJ refuse ces demandes et de voir comment ces demandes d'affiliation peuvent être considérées afin qu'ils puissent eux aussi bénéficier des facilités de la Fédération mauricienne de judo?
Certainement, Monsieur le Président. Donc, au niveau du ministère, nous avons déjà de toutes les façons reçu plusieurs lettres. Il y a plusieurs clubs qui m'ont écrit personnellement. Donc là, je vois, il y a le club de Cassis, donc Monsieur Mike Munawa. Donc, il y a au moins plusieurs clubs qui m'ont écrit. Et donc, j'ai déjà donné la responsabilité à mes officiers de vérifier et de voir qu'est-ce qui s'est passé par rapport à la demande d'affiliation. Et je tiens à ajouter aussi que c'est valable pour tous les sportifs, pour tous les entraîneurs, pour tous les clubs. Si quelque part ils se sentent lésés, ils peuvent aussi faire une complainte au bureau de l'ombudsperson, qui lui, c'est son travail, qui va suivre personnellement les différentes complaintes qui vont être logées. Donc j'inviterai les clubs qui ont des difficultés avec la fédération d'aller vers le ombudsperson pour faire leur complainte officielle et de sorte à ce qu'on puisse trouver une solution.
Concernant justement l'affiliation des clubs de judo, le ministre peut-il nous dire s'il est informé que le secrétariat de la fédération, qui se trouve à Grande-Rivière, refuse systématiquement de prendre possession des enveloppes envoyées par la poste concernant les demandes d'affiliation des clubs?
J'ai fait demander une petite enquête à ce sujet. Donc, d'après ce qui m'a été rapporté, c'est que les lettres qui arrivent au dojo, bien souvent, il n'y a aucun membre ou secrétaire administratif de la fédération qui sont présents et qui pourrait réceptionner ces différentes lettres. D'où le retour à l'envoyeur, comme on dit, de ces différentes lettres de demande. Mais, comme je l'ai dit, donc je demande à ces différents clubs d'aller vers le ombudsperson et si besoin est, si le problème, on n'arrive pas à trouver une solution, donc si besoin est, j'appellerai une réunion avec les différents clubs qui n'ont pas eu leur affiliation et je demanderai la présence de l'honorable Tour dans cette réunion pour qu'on puisse trouver une solution ensemble. Alors, et avec le président de la fédération pour qu'on puisse discuter autour d'une table et voir où est-ce que la communication ne passe pas, de sorte à ce que la fédération pourrait au plus vite enregistrer ces différents clubs qui font leurs demandes.
The table has been advised that PQ B973, PQ B980, PQ B981, and PQ B982 have been withdrawn. Honourable members, I'll suspend the sitting for 1.5 hours.